no matter who you are and what you do, you have by now heard about the greatest wealth transfer in history. Well, we've studied the top tier of the next generation of wealth who's going to inherit at least $10 million. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you three things. What we know about the motivating core values of the three kinds of inheritors. How to see which kind you resemble the most. And in case you do any kind of work or volunteering that focuses on high net worth people, how you can use these findings as a kind of secret weapon to engage and influence these folks, the people that you want to reach. You ready? Here we go. In order to understand the next generation of wealth, the inheritors, as we call them, we need to look at what these people are all about. What makes them tick? And in order to do that, we need to know what their values are. Why? Because behavioral science has been studying this for a very, very long time. If we look at all the different fields of scientific inquiry that fall under the umbrella of behavioral science, neurology, psychology, psychiatry, sociology, they all fall under the umbrella of behavioral science. So let's look at neurology. Neurologists will tell you that the prefrontal cortex of your brain, you've probably heard this, it's a social media meme. The prefrontal cortex of your brain is the CEO of your life. It makes all your decisions on your behalf and tells your body and your mind how you're going to behave and do all that kind of stuff, like a good CEO is supposed to do. Now it takes all the incoming data, all the sights and sounds and smells and all the things that your senses can pick up, and it sifts through it all, and based on what it sees, tells you how you're going to make a decision, what you're going to do, what your feelings are going to be, what your emotions are going to be, what your reaction's going to be to the world around you. Now it only uses one set of filters to do all that work, and that's your values. Which kind of makes sense when you think about it, right? Let's say family is the most important value in your life. And along comes something that looks like it's going to be good for your family. Well, your prefrontal cortex will say you should go get that thing because it aligns with our values. And when you get that thing, I'm going to reward you with something called happiness. I'm going to make you feel happy. If something comes along that might be bad for your family, and your prefrontal cortex is going to say, okay, I need to incent you to get that thing off of the radar screen. We don't want that anywhere near us because it's out of alignment with our values. So I'm going to make you feel anxious until you're able to make that thing go away. So our prefrontal cortex, in a very real way, is responsible for determining everything that we do and who we are and how we live our lives. And it's all based on our values. Psychologists, psychiatrists, sociologists, they'll all back this up. In fact, it's sort of a universally accepted truth in the behavioral science community that what we value determines what we do, who we are, how we're going to live our lives, and who we're going to become. Okay, let's look at some data, like I promised, about the next generation of wealth, a study we've done on what we call the inheritors. Now remember, there's 56 values that could be on a chart that they all have in common that are driving the next generation of wealth. Watch for the ones that are most aligned with the way you look at the world. This is for all the inheritors in the United States of America. Belonging and relationships are up at the top. The ones in the blue are what we call the togetherness values. And we make them blue and make them stand out because another beautiful finding from all of this work we've done all over the world, they're always there. There's always some togetherness values, no matter what audience of people we're looking at. But then we see things like financial security and personal responsibility. These are up near the top. We're not going to spend too much time talking about these individual values right now, because the next thing we're going to do is take a look at them as they relate to the general population of the United States. So look how different they are. These inheritors who are going to be the beneficiaries of at least $10 million in terms of the inheritance, they're not like the rest of us. They have a very different set of values. In teal there, you can see the importance or relative importance or unimportance of these various values to the general population versus the inheritors themselves. Now, as I promised, I'm going to give you some information to help you see what kind of inheritor you might be. So let's start going down that road. If you look at all the people who fit into this category of the inheritors, they break up into these different groups. Now, the first group we'll talk about are the splinter groups. You see those folks down there. It's a 13% of the people who are in this group called the inheritors, the next generation of wealth. There are all kinds of little groups in there. They're like 0.5% or 1%, and there's too many of them to worry about because we just take them out. We just call them the splinter groups or make it gray. What that leaves behind is 4 big groups of people. So in a real big way, you can say there's 4 kinds of next generation of wealth. There's 4 kinds of inheritors. People we call the masters of the universe. We'll tell you why in a moment. The ESG champions, the loyal seekers, or the embryonic. Be interesting to see which one you are most similar to. Let's talk about the masters of the universe. What can I tell you about these guys? Well, these are folks who are driven by work. They tell us that they work as much as 80 hours a week. Now, they're lying a little bit because people who love to work that much always exaggerate how many hours they're spending at the office because it makes them feel like they're superhumans. But if these folks could choose between spending more time at home and spending more time at work, they'd spend more time at work. They love it. It gives them their identity. It gives them all the things that they're looking for, they're finding through their work. It's an enviable kind of person to be if what you're trying to do is stay happy and you're this kind of person, this kind of investor, this kind of philanthropist, then this is a set of values that are driving these people. Now, if you see yourself in these values and you're not getting enough of these values, you might want to think about ways that you can find more of these things. So let's talk about these quickly. I put our arrows by 2 that I thought were really interesting and kind of indicative of what masters of the universe are all about. So the first one is wealth. Of the 56 values that could show up on a chart for what's important to this group of people, wealth is the number 2 most important. Now, wealth is not money. It's not financial security, which are values in and of for themselves. Wealth is wanting to keep score. Wealth is like a giant dashboard in their lives. Like they want to just see the numbers on all the accounts and investments continuing to go up. It's like a game. It's like, it's like gamification. And that's a thing that drives them. Will this decision I'm about to make, is this thing I want to buy, is this person I'm going to hang out with, how is it going to help me move the needles on my wealth in the right direction? They also love their stuff. They love possessions. Now, people who like possessions, they like all kinds of different possessions for different reasons. This group of people likes possessions that reinforce that they're doing well, that they're successful, and that they're working hard, and that these possessions that they have are the badges and emblems that they deserve because of all that time they're spending doing those things that they love to do. So there's a little bit of information about the masters of the universe, and maybe you see yourself in that profile. Here's the next group, the ESG champions. Now, we're all familiar with the term ESG. It stands for environmentalism, social, and good governance. And so these folks are very concerned about ESG issues. They will be ESG philanthropists. Any money that they give to anybody is going to have something to do with the environment or good governance or social issues. Their investing is going to be very much influenced, not maybe 100% of the time, but influenced heavily by whether or not the organizations or the investment opportunities that they're looking at have anything to do with bettering things around ESG. 2 values that I thought were very interesting here that we see frequently whenever we're profiling people who buy a particular sustainable kind of product or make choices that are good for the planet. We see these 2 values come up all the time. So I'm not surprised to see them here in this particular kind of wealthy next generation inheritor. One is personal responsibility. They want to be the ones who feel like they're getting stuff done. It's their actions that are making the needle move in the right direction. So, for example, they'd be very interested in helping to save the rainforest. Let's talk about an obvious environmental thing. But they'd be even more interested in finding out a way that they today can recycle better, can change their behaviors, can buy a different product or service, and that action of theirs will be responsible for saving 1 tree in the rainforest. And if they do that action again tomorrow, it'll save another tree. They want to be personally responsible for the things that are going on around them in their lives. I always like to say that these are not folks who are going to sit on the couch and say, you know what somebody should do. These are folks who are going to get up off the couch and go and do that thing that needs to be done. So maybe you see yourself in that. Positive environments. These are glass half full people. They do not, well, take it back to environmentalism, for example, they don't want to hear that, or they're less likely to be excited by a message that has something to do with, the ice caps are melting and it's not looking good. Compared to, you know what, the ice caps, it's a problem, but we're fixing it. We're working together. We're going to get there. It's going to be amazing. That's a little bit about the ESG champions. Let's move on to the loyal seekers. The loyal seekers, you can see their name is there because these are folks who are looking for something. They're seeking something and they're very, very loyal. You can see religion and spirituality showing up here, and it doesn't show up in any of the other profiles. You can also see loyalty way up at the top of the list. They're very loyal to people, to things, to institutions. And here's the hitch with loyalty. We call it a reciprocal value. Because in order to get their loyalty, you need to be loyal to them first. Interesting side note, think about all the loyalty programs for airlines, for example. The airline will be loyal to me and reward me after I've been loyal to them. Where people who value loyalty, they want you to be loyal first, and then they will be loyal to you. So I don't know how to fix that. But loyalty programs would be much stronger if the loyalty came from the organization first, not after the individual showed the loyalty to the organization. Anyway, that's the loyal seekers. If you see yourself in that group, that's some more things that you might find interesting about how you approach the world. Lastly, the embryonic. These are people who, it's probably they're the first generation to inherit wealth. Mom and dad made it. They're got it now, or they're about to get it. And they're very concerned that they're going to do things right. They don't want to make any mistakes. They don't want to lose the fortune. They also don't want to be seen to be somebody who doesn't really know their way around things and their way around the rituals of what it is to lead the lives they're trying to lead. So we see social standing very high for these folks. They're worried that other people are going to, how do I sitting here in the pecking order? How do people see me? It's a very big motivator for them. So anything that they're going to be attracted to is going to have to do with how will other people see me if I do this thing. Financial security. None of the other groups have it ranked so high. They're very concerned about making sure that that fortune that they've inherited remains secure and intact. Okay, now I promised you I would show you how you can find the values for yourself, or if you're doing any volunteer work, or maybe the company that you work for. So how can you find the values of a group of people so you can start understanding what's driving their decisions? Now you can engage with them in a more powerful way. The first way is you can hire my company. We do this work for big companies and small companies all over the world. We help them use our data to very, very specifically pinpoint. But you know what? It's not free and it's not for everybody. So here's another option. It also sounds like I'm trying to sell you my book. But if anybody's ever written a book and put it up on Amazon, they'll know that you make about $1 a copy. So if you buy a copy of my book, you can find it on Amazon. It's called We Are All the Same Age Now. I think it's like $14 or something like that. And there's an ebook version that's even less, like $6. You can use a quiz in the book, and you can use it for yourself. Many people do. You can also send it out to the folks for the organization that you're doing volunteer work with, or customers if you've got a little company you want to do this for, and get them to take the quiz, and it'll tell you which of the 10 chapters in the book is most similar to your target audience. So you'll be able to understand immediately, just by flipping to that chapter, what the values are that are driving that group of people. Pretty simple stuff. And here's the best one of all. This is free. Ask these 3 questions. Ask them of yourself, if you're interested in figuring out what your values are all about. But ask them of your customers, the people with the organization you're doing volunteer work for, whoever it is you're trying to understand. If you can get a whole bunch of people to answer these 3 questions, and then you listen. And what's going to start happening is you're going to hear values bubbling to the surface in the responses. Everybody's going to have a different way of talking about this because we all are individual humans. But if you listen, you'll hear themes popping up. And those themes, those are values. So let me show you these 3 questions. We call them the 3 telltale questions. The first one, why do you go to work? It's an interesting question, huh? Why do we get up every day and spend all the time we spend at work? Why? What's it for? So you get people to tell you the answer to that, and you're starting to get to what their core motivators are. In other words, what are their core human values? You ask yourself this question, why would you give away half your lottery winnings? If you can answer that for yourself or ask that question of people who you're trying to understand better, you're going to get down to not who would you give your lottery winnings to, but why would you give away half of your lottery winnings? You're getting down to that core level of what it means to be human. What are your values? And the third question, what would you say to your 10 years ago self and why? That's my favorite one. Think about that for a second. You get to sit down and write a letter or make a little video like this one and send it to yourself 10 years ago in the past. What would you say? And more importantly, why would you say those things? So you can see the pattern here, right? All 3 of these questions are about why. Why would you go to work? Why would you give away half your lottery winnings? And what would you say to your 10 years ago self and why? Simon Sinek has been talking about finding your why for a very long time. So these are some tools to help you get there. And that's what our database was built to do. Let me finish this way. This is all really interesting, and it's cool to see what these people are all about, and maybe imagine yourself as one of those categories of the next generation of wealth. To use those questions and those tools to understand what your values are and the values of the people you're trying to understand and engage. But this is way bigger than that. This is way more than just understanding people. Because here's the thing. Demographics, which is the way we tend to look at people now, they're really not a very good thing. When we sit around and say, my target audience or the people who I'm thinking about at work or my volunteer work or whoever, we look at people based on outward characteristics. And it makes things binary. But here's the really good news to end on. It's not hard to change this. If we just change the way we look at people, if we just change the way we look at our friends and the people we work with and at ourselves for that matter, and understand what's on the inside instead of what's on the outside, we can understand people a lot better, and we can also make the world just a little bit of a happier place. We're starting to chip away at some of these problems that we're plagued with on this poor old planet of ours right now. So thanks for listening. I hope you found some of that interesting. I loved having the chance to talk to you. If you'd like to follow me on LinkedIn, I do spend a lot of time there. You know what to do with these QR codes. Biggest tech comeback in the last 2 years. Everybody knows what a QR code is again. We've forgotten pre-COVID. So this will take you directly to my LinkedIn page. My name's David Allison. My company's called the Valuegraphics Project. I'd love to see you on LinkedIn. Please let me know if you come and join and follow that you're there and that you found me this way so we can say hi. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed this, and thanks for your time.